Boruto Episode 10, Ghost Incident, The Investigation Begins. Now honestly, I thought this was kind of an okay episode. I feel like they didn't really do too much that was really special about it. They had some good moments. Like, what I really loved about this episode was, admittedly, we got to see more of Naruto and Hinata, and we even see them together, which I don't think happened since like the first episode when Naruto actually came home and then he like went to sleep and that was it. So it was kind of cool. They had like a little moment where, they were just being parents. They were talking about it, and they go, they look at Boruto as he's, sleeping in bed, and it's like, oh man, he's tired, and yeah, they just have a little conversation. I thought that was pretty cool. On the other side of that, it was like, there's some elements in there where, like, Boruto having these issues, not being close to his father, Hinata didn't bridge that gap like I feel any parent probably should have. And I know her reasoning is like, well, it's mostly because Naruto's super freaking busy. But I feel like he can drop a shadow clone. I mean, that's his thing. And yeah, they kind of show that in this episode too. Like, that's like what he always does. It hasn't come up yet because we haven't gotten to like, Boruto the movie, but there's a very specific sequence in there where it's a shadow clone, and it was like super depressing when I saw that, when I like first experienced it. I was like, damn, that seems sad to me. But that's his thing. Like, he does shadow clones all the time. And I was like, man, they could have done something to kind of bridge that gap. But once again, that brings up what I mentioned before, where it's like, I feel like they have these opportunities, but they can't utilize them because we have to wait until we get to Boruto the movie before they actually do that, so that they can reconcile, because they have these moments where I keep seeing like, all this person has to do is this, or all, like in this episode, Hinata could just say this, despite, of course, Naruto being super busy. He can make it work. Like, they have that moment in the episode when they're talking, but she still doesn't say it because she knows like that would lead to him losing more time from being Hokage, which is like the whole point of that scene was like, sorry I woke you up. I had to stay here overnight and I didn't have a change of clothes, so I came home literally to pick up some clothes and then go back to work. So, like, she certainly has a great point, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, in pretty much any other show, this could end right here, and they probably wouldn't have done it in this way where, they have these moments so early on. But it's just like, every time I see it, I'm like, that could be it. This could be one of those moments where it's at least helped a little bit, and they can still do that too. And I feel like that's something that they miss, where it's like they could at least try to get to those moments, and maybe it fails, and I'd be like, at least they attempted it, and it has to do that. And it's like, of course that happens because of Boruto, but they don't even bother with it. It's like, I feel like there's an easy route to attempt some sort of connection between Naruto and his son, and then it's like, but we have to wait for, the episodes that basically, recap Boruto the movie before they can have their reconciliation. And every time, I mean, it's only happened twice, but I think it was in the last episode, like, honestly can't even remember, but it was like, it just happened, and I'm like, they have moments where I'm like, this is how they reconcile, and they actually start to bond. And it's like, nope, it doesn't happen, because that's just how it has to be, because they're going into Boruto, and it's like, that really that's a weird thing that affects the characters, and it's just like, man, that sucks. Like, it's the same thing with Boruto's power, where it's like, okay, that didn't exist in the film, but they can easily make it where that ability goes away, and that's something they kind of talk about in the previous episode, where it's like, that's a power that could be utilized, kind of, all the Sharingan's, like, it could go away, except it can actually come back in this case. So it's like, okay, that's a simple explanation. They use it, we get to the Boruto stuff, like the movie, goes away, and then it comes back later, because of course we have to get to the point where he's older and he has the power again. So, they have that where it can go away and come back, but you can't have a grand resolution between two characters and then have it go away and then have it come back, because that would just seem really dumb. So instead, we just have moments where there could be a grand resolution, but then it's like, it's getting there, and it's like, let's just cut that off because we have to wait, until we get back to the movie stuff. So it's like, it really sucks when they have those moments where I just feel like it could work here, but they can't do it because it would completely alter, what happened in the film. And they're a ways away from that, which is the crazy thing. They have to keep building up to that, and it's going to take a minute before we get there. So it's just like, I don't know how long that'll take and how many times we'll see stuff like this, but it kind of bugs me because I feel like they're just little things. And like I said, hopefully the next time it happens, if it does happen again, they'll at least have like an attempt that fails, and it's like, okay, of course I knew it couldn't work because of the movie, but at least they tried it, and it was just the logical next step. Like, you kind of push through certain things when it comes to, parents and their children. Like, and it was just kind of weird. I was like, I feel like this was, despite Hinata's reasoning, wasn't really the best idea. It was still, you have your husband and you have your son. They need to bond. Like, that's just the way it has to be. Father and son, Parents and their children, period, need to bond. So having an actual, like, almost verbal distance where you know that this kid is doing this to get his father's attention because he feels like he can't get his father's attention. And it's like, you can be that gap because Naruto's kind of stupid. He sometimes misses those marks. And especially, being the Hokage now, he's not even there to miss the marks. He's literally just like, it's impossible for him to figure that out. He's dumb as is. He's not going to figure that out from a distance. So it's like, other people have to be the one to bring them together. And like I said, it kind of bugged me because it was like, it's the second time it happened where I'm like, there's a logical next step to this where it could solve this huge problem that they have, but they can't do that because of the film. And so it's just like, why put those moments in there where people who've seen the movie can even have those ideas? So that's just me. Maybe, that they don't care about that. It's not the target audience. I don't know. I have to be because I watch Naruto, so I don't know. But that was like the one thing that bugged me. Honestly, it was like the only thing that bothered me the whole episode. Was just like, I don't like seeing that a second time where they have what I feel could be the next logical step, but we have this already set, determined path going into the film, and that's where that grand resolution comes from, which, like I said, they're a bit of ways away from that, so, who knows how long we're going to have to wait before that ultimately happens. But outside of that moment and, like, the decisions made there, I still thought it was a decent episode. It's still just, it was a fairly minute episode as far as, like, any sort of relevance. Like, we had that good moment, even though it came from something that I felt could have been more logical. I still loved the moment with Hinata and Naruto talking. I still thought that was great. Seeing Boruto and Naruto talk, I actually still enjoyed that sequence. It was also kind of funny because of the mailman where he's like freaking out and stuff. But I like what they did there. Like, those little moments were cool. They definitely had some funny moments. The guys in the beginning of the episode, Boruto's basically trying to trigger his technique where he's trying to find what they're considering the ghost now. And I was like, that's cool. They're actively doing it. They end up skipping school, which is also a funny thing. But had some funny moments in there, like him turning around saying like his eyes were super dry. For some reason, that really made me laugh. And then, of course, Shikadai, when they show like the big hand mark, and it was like, your mother compared to mine is like absolutely mild. So I love that. Mitsuki's letter was really funny to me, where it's like, I, the claimant, will be absent because of it was some like really extravagant word like no kid would have used, and then he also wrote cough, and that made me laugh. So they definitely had some funny moments in there. We get to see Sada, we get to see Chocho, we get to see Metal-Lee and Inojin, so it was cool to see them. They had like no real relevance. Denki was in it. I can never remember the other kids. I think it was like Iwabe or whatever. They're both in there in like the fireworks shop, and they blow that up. We get to see the kids as they go around. Lee got nervous in front of the firefighters. The girls came out of the salon and everything was perfect for them because that's, neither of them have like crazy weird issues that cause them to do stupid things. So it was pretty cool. The boys go through. It's like, all right, well, if we deliver the mail, we'll be able to, track down the ghost. They do that. They do a horrible job at it, of course. I thought they did fine, but I was like, of course, Boruto like missing stuff was kind of making me laugh as they're going through. But I'm like, okay, they delivered it, no big deal. They get to the other side of the village. Nothing happens. We get to see Sai, but it was like everything I kind of wanted to see, which was like some advancement in the story. We were literally with the guys as they were getting to the point where it's like, crap, we can't do anything extra. So we're following them as they get to the point of learning nothing extra is about to happen. They don't find out anything new, so neither do we. It was like, all right, well, it's kind of just an episode. Like, not much really happened. We get to the next part, something else bad happens, and ultimately that was kind of solved as well. It wasn't even what I thought was going to happen. Was going to be like the boys would go in and there would be this whole crazy action deal and stuff like pretty much every episode. But even that didn't really happen. It was like it happened. Things were solved. And that was pretty much it. There was no real advancement. It was like, no crazy action sequence or anything like super epic. I was like, at least we'll get that because everything's just been like not getting anywhere. Nothing really big happening. So ultimately we didn't really get that much. We had like a little bit of advancement towards the end with Naruto talking to Shikamaru and Sai, and it's like, alright, well, things are definitely advancing. It's getting crazier, and that was pretty much how things kind of ended off. And it's like, yeah, not much. It was like things got worse. It was like, obviously. And that was pretty much the whole episode, and like some comedy thrown in. So it was like, it was an okay episode because it did make me laugh. It was a good episode, but with this being, us going into things, especially with them starting like the main story so early on, it's weird that we'd even have such an episode where like nothing truly relevant happens like whatsoever. We don't actually see the people get taken over, and like that's the thing about it. Like that's kind of the point of the episode, is that the guys are trying to be so involved, but they're detached in this episode, and it's somewhat interesting, but actually that's an interesting idea. But seeing it, it just like they went on like an internship for an episode, and that was pretty much it. And they screwed up at that the next day, and that's when things went crazy. And it's just like not not really that relevant. So it's like it was still, like I said, an okay episode because it did actually make me laugh. I wasn't like bored watching the episode. It was just like, man, I wish I could laugh. And then the next scene that I'm not laughing in is actually super relevant because it adds to some part of the mystery or learning who's doing this or what. And they kind of hint at that like the tiniest little bit in this episode. But once again, it's just like something's happening, and that's pretty much it. It's like we got the Hashirama thing. Of course, that comes back. So that's really it. It's like someone really powerful is doing this. It might be the Foundation, which was like the secret organization within the secret organization of the Anbu Black Ops. I was like, okay, there's something to it. At least we got something, but that's still really it. Like, that's still all we got, and that's still speculation. That'll probably be it, just because it's the Anbu Black Ops, and I think that would actually lead to some really great fights, so I'm kind of hoping it is former Anbu/Foundation members, because they're great fighters, so that will lead to some cool stuff later on. But for now, it's still just speculation. I'm just hoping that that truly is the case, and we'll see what happens with that. Senju DNA, so wood style. I would love to see that come back. I always thought it was one of the coolest ones, just visually. So we'll see how things play out. But like I said, it was just an okay episode. Had some good laughs. Had some decent moments with Naruto and Hinata, and also Naruto with Boruto. But even those moments stem from something, like I said, which is, it could be so much better, but it also can't be, because then it would destroy the storyline that they already established with the movie. So it's like, it's really crazy watching, because I'm like, man, this is actually entertaining to see them have these adult moments, which, of course, with this episode, this series focusing on the kids, we don't really see the adults that much in general. So them having this moment, I really loved. It was just like, I think it was episode 3, when we get to see Shikadai go home, and I was like, that was like my favorite part. Like, actually seeing the family elements of this show is actually really well done, even if there are certain issues where I feel like, the great writing is almost halted by previous writing, which is obviously still great. Like, the Boruto movie is awesome, but it's just like them going so far back is like, that hinders them so much. But it's like they're trying to write for a great moment, and then it's like, but you can't solve the problem, so why make a moment where there could even be a solution, or at least follow through, and the solution is just not good enough. And it's like they just do it halfway and then it's just cut off, and I'm like, well, that just makes it look dumb. At that point, it makes it seem like Hinata doesn't care enough in a weird sense to me, and it's just like, it's just weird. Like, I know that's not the case, but that's kind of how it looks when you watch it like that, and it's like, why would they write it leading up to something that could work, knowing that they can't write it to the point where it works? So it just makes it kind of weird. But like I said, overall it was just a decent episode. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts about it. And I definitely want to know what you guys thought about the parent element of this episode, especially Hinata not saying something to Naruto. Like, how do you guys feel about that? Because for me, like I said, knowing why it happened, or at least assuming I know, because they can't have the solution before the actual film, it just sucks that they would write it that way, because it's like, it almost makes the character seem really crappy, and in a way it does, because technically this is all canon, so it's like, they're almost like making new canon that makes the character worse a little bit as a parent, and that's already a huge issue that people have with Naruto as a character now. Like, he's a crappy father and stuff, and it's like, I don't think this episode helped, because now he transfers over to Hinata, and it's like, well, that's definitely not going to help them making canon stuff like this, where they know the characters can't go to great solutions, because we have to wait for Boruto the movie, or those episodes at least, to give us said great solutions. So who knows? But like I said, I would love to know what you guys thought about that element of the episode. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about it in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.